All right, we're going. All right. Have you ever met someone that seemingly has oodles of talent, but and they have lots of experience and even listed for 5 different things on IMDb, but still are very humble and gives credit to God for all their accomplishments? Do you know who I'm talking about? Troy? Troy?
Who? What?
You are listed on IMDb. Do you know that?
I think somebody asked me if I was, and I actually had to go look to see if I was indeed, and I found myself listed on IMDb.
You
Yes.
certainly are.
Um,
My friend Troy W Hudson is our guest, our esteemed guest today. How are you doing tonight?
Fine, Mr. Mike. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on here, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's go. You've been in broadcasting a long time. How long have you been in broadcasting?
Well, let's see. I've been in voiceover since probably 1983, 84. I actually started in the U.S. Army, um, stationed at Fort Ben Harrison, Indiana. I went through the radio, TV, broadcast journalism course way back in late 83, early 84, and got stationed at Fort Bragg and spent about 5.5 years there. So that's where I got my start.
Nice. And as a side note, Troy and I could have known each other back then because we were there at the same time, which I was
You
in
had
the
the
Air
luxury suite. You were in the Air Force. I was
I,
going to
I
say, yeah, you
was, I
were.
was.
Oh,
We had our own bathroom for one bathroom for 4 people. I think you probably had one bathroom for like 12 or 15, right?
we used to joke about that. For folks that don't know, Fort Bragg and Pope Air Force Base had joined each other. I was at Bragg for the Army part of it, and of course, Mike was at Pope Air Force Base. And we used to joke when we would go across into their land. There was a golf course there,
Uh-huh.
and various things, the reason to go over, because I did a lot of video work over there because of what I was doing in the Army. And we would just drive by and look at the barracks, or as we called them, the dorms. And there was this joke about, oh, well, there's the Air Force. We thought you guys had it really easy in
Yeah.
comparison to what the Army guys had, but just silly branch rivalry stuff.
Yeah, of course, of
Thank you
course.
for your service, by the way.
Well, thank you for your service. You served longer than I had, so that's fantastic. Always
It
great to
is
have a
funny, though. We
veteran
could have, yeah,
do
we
what?
could have crossed paths somewhere along the way. It's
You
it's
just
funny.
don't
We could
know.
have,
I think we
yeah.
have talked about this before. I think we've gone to Spring Lake and gone to the same kind of places out there and to eat.
Yep.
And what was that roast beef place? Rax roast beef. Remember that?
Rax
Yeah,
roast beef. Yeah, they had good salads too, but yeah.
yeah. I remember.
Okay, 86 to 89 is when I was there.
I was
Or
there
yeah, about
84 to just right at the end of 87.
we could have crossed paths,
Oh
Mike.
yeah,
It's possible.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So how you been since?
I've been hanging in there, hanging in
Good.
there. So you started your broadcast career in the Army. What kind of things did they have you broadcast in the Army?
Oh my goodness. I was assigned to the 4th Psychological Operations Group.
Oh, tell me
I
about
can't tell you everything. Yeah, I know. Somebody's listening. And I was in psyops, so it was actually kind of like a marketing thing. Lots of training stuff. Initially, when I got there, they didn't have anything for me to do. And I thought, because all of the assignments for radio, TV, broadcast journalists were all either in Germany or in Korea. So I expected when I left Fort Ben Harrison, Indiana in early 84 to get assigned to one of those two places.
it. Sure.
And it turns out when I saw my orders to Fort Bragg, my heart just sank. I mean, I thought, oh no. And when I looked at it, there were no there was nothing there for me to do. There was no facility. There was nothing they had built. But it turns out God smiled on me that day because when I got there, there were a couple of weeks, several weeks where they said, well, we really don't know what to do with you. But there's a special duty assignment coming up across post at the 18th Airborne Corps headquarters facility. And there's opening. They have like a little radio station, and they're starting up a brand new TV show, like a PM magazine type format, which is just like a news magazine, entertainment kind of thing. And they were just getting that off the ground. So the timing was perfect. And I know God's hand was in that because he knew I couldn't stand the boredom of just like,
Yeah,
okay, nothing to do here.
especially
Or
not
they
at
were
that
going to send
age.
me.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Or they would send me to Honduras for 6 months of TDY stuff to do more of nothing there So those were my two options.
And the Air Force had it
Uh,
easy. That's all I'm saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
you guys. I mean, come on.
We had jobs to do though, so were you the only one with your MOS over there at all?
In the unit no, actually, there was, I think, one other guy that was there that was, at the time it was called a 71 Romeo, a broadcast journalist who had actually rotated in and out of Grenada because the Grenada invasion had happened about a year before, and they were still rotating people in and out. And I thought, oh,
Okay.
great. They're going to send me to Grenada to do more nothing. And all they did was set up portable radio stations and, make a few civil announcements to, for the civilians, and that was it. So they had nothing for me to do. They sent me over to the 18th Airborne Corps. I spent 2 years immersed in radio production, on air stuff. I did a morning show. I did some programs for external stations. Um, I was exposed to an amazing TV show where I was able to shoot and direct and write and on camera stuff, and got to travel all over the post and hang out with SF folks training and 82nd Airborne, and just the craziest combination of
Wow.
stuff. I got to see stuff that nobody um, was able to see unless you were in those units. So I was exposed to an enormous amount of stuff, a great appreciation for the military, and what I was able to learn when I thought I was going into a dead end assignment. It
Yeah.
turned out to be an amazing assignment. And so they actually tried to put me twice on orders to go overseas. The first time was during the special duty thing to Hawaii. You're like, go to Hawaii,
Oh,
man.
poor
It's like the
guy.
Air Force.
Poor
But
guy, yeah.
yeah, and part of me wanted to, but I realized when I researched it, there was nothing there for me to do there either. They had a slot,
Mm.
but they had no work for me to do. So the captain that was in the unit went to bat for me, blocked the orders, which was unheard of at the time. So I stayed at Bragg the whole time. Midway through, after the radio stuff was done, the PSYOPs group built this multi-million-dollar facility that was based on the production gear that they just used, I think, in the 84 or 88 Olympics. And so I was able to do about 3 years of intense voiceover work as well as video editing, learn some amazing things. So my time in was fantastic. The timing and the way things worked out, I'm quite certain God had a big hand in that. So I was very, very blessed. So 5.5, 6 years in, it was time to get out, and there was nothing for me there either.
I hear you. I got out and I expected great things, and great things did not come my way. So I completely understand. So
It
you
took
really
a
took
while,
that
yeah.
experience at 5 or 6 years and taught yourself a lot of stuff, and that that just shows kind of who you are on the inside. I'm very very similar. It's like I don't want to be just sitting there. I keep telling my son when he was younger. So the last time I was bored was December 1985. And that is the God's honest truth, because I normally have just so much stuff going in my head. My wife has always said that as soon as your head hits a pillow within 20, 30 seconds, you're out. And I always say, well, it's my clear conscience, but it really is because I'm so active in my head all day long that finally when I do shut it off, it goes off. And but yeah, in December 1985, and you probably know this too, or maybe it was an Air Force thing, but we had a small unit. We were AFCC, which was the Air Force Communications Command. And all we did was all the radio stuff for air traffic control and all that kind of thing. And of course, during Christmas and New Year's, all sorties went shut almost down to nothing. So those guys kind of sat up in the tower. We had a local control and a ground control and a supervisor, and that was really it. There was nothing going on. So I had the beeper. Back in 1985, there were beepers that you could hear them talk to you over. So I had the
Look it up,
beeper.
kid.
Huh? The
I said, look it up, kids.
It's a Motorola, but, I remember getting the beeper because I was single. I was in 1985, I was 21, and I had nothing going on, so everybody else had families and everything, so I was the only guy on call during that time, and because there was nothing going on, there was no calls, and there's nobody to talk to. Almost everybody was gone, so I remember sitting and, gosh, they had all the fast food restaurants were open even over Christmas and Thanksgiving and all that kind of stuff because of all the GIs in town. Fort Bragg at that time had 50,000 I believe, and then I don't know whether that includes spouses and dependents, but
Mhm.
50,000, the Air Force had 5. So it's like they knew that, they couldn't really shut it down because there was always somebody who's gonna be hungry. So I remember
Yeah.
sitting at a Taco Bell, being bored to death watching a football game or something all by myself in 1985. That was the last time I can remember feeling bored. So I was actually bored that day. So that's a
You
long way
have
to
lived
go
a
for that
I was gonna say, you have lived a full life since then, apparently, the last time you were bored.
I just don't get
Wow.
bored. I don't know why that is.
Great.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
great.
yeah. But, so, you got out of the service, and, so where did you go from there? What was your next move?
2 of the things I did while I was in the service, they allowed me to moonlight. So I was actually had 2 different gigs, at 2 different local stations in town
Oh,
under
nice.
pseudonyms, um, which helped me bridge, once I got out. But, one of them was you may or may not remember Hit Radio Q98, the
Oh
top 40
gosh.
hit station, and I was like an evening guy or an overnight guy. And then there was another station that a lot of the GIs and maybe some of the Air Force guys listened to, and that was Rock 1450, WRZK,
Oh, wow.
America's only heavy metal rock station in Spring Lake, North Carolina.
Oh, wow. Son of a gun. I had no idea Spring Lake had a radio station, so
They don't anymore. It was a little 5,000-watt station. It was a shack on top of a hill, but
Spring
yeah,
Lake was about 3/4 of a mile. That was it from start to finish back then. You started was that 6th Avenue where Bragg Boulevard, and I can't remember, but it was all on Bragg Boulevard, and you went from Bragg Boulevard down, and when you got to there used to be a place, and I think I may have talked to you about this. It used to be a place called the Cedar Point Cafe or this, where the 2 roads came together. I think it was, I don't remember the other road now, but it was a point in the road, and right at that point, they had built a little cafe, like a coffee shop. You get breakfast anytime, day or night. It was like a fancier Waffle House, but it was like, it was you paid once for coffee and you could drink all night if you wanted to. But anyway, that
I'm
that was kind of
I'm
the
trying to
end of
remember what
Spring
I had
Lake.
for breakfast this morning, Mike.
Well, I can't remember the name, but I remember we used to go there quite a bit, but that was at the end of Spring Lake, and it couldn't have been more than 3/4 of a mile, but I
It
can't
was not a big town, yeah.
yeah,
But your question, back to your question.
sorry.
I was trying to picture in my head, how does he remember this stuff? It's
I
been
don't know.
1985. How did
I don't know.
I've been back there a couple of times just driving through, and I was just like, nothing looks the same, of course, when you go
Yeah,
back.
of course, of course.
Uh, but, yeah, in, like, 89, 90, I got out, and for, like, 8, 9 months, I had no work. So, I was married at the time with our first 2 babies, and, so, thankfully, when I got out of Bragg, the only place to go was down the road in Columbia, South Carolina. And so no, I'm sorry, yeah, down the road where they lived in Columbia, so it was like a 3-hour drive from Fort Bragg. Um, and so I did construction labor work for 8, 9 months after sending out 100 plus resumes thinking, "Man, I got the creds here."
Mhm.
Who wouldn't wanna hire an ex, Army guy with who's done this and this? Well, nobody wanted to hire him. So it was a real struggle for like 8 months, living in a little bedroom, wondering what was gonna happen. There was a crossroads moment in 1990 when I had 2 job interviews. One was to be a forklift operator for a, hazardous waste disposal company, and the other was for a lower paying job as a production director, directing early morning news for the ABC affiliate in Columbia, South Carolina, and also editing together some commercials. And so it was a real struggle, but, I went against the higher paying forklift operator job
Of course.
and decided to go the route of the TV job. And so that made all the difference. It really did. It was one of those pivotal crossroad things that I could have still been driving a forklift. And I'm not saying anything against blue collar work. Believe me, I'm not.
Yeah,
But for me, that was just not my calling.
sure.
And it was, more important for me to follow that path. I did that for about a year. And then somebody told me about a production job opening up at a big utility company in Columbia, and spent 10 years there doing video and voiceover. And from there, I actually moved to a commercial production house and did video editing for lots of commercials and different productions up until 2012. In 2012, I got laid off, and I've
Mm.
been doing full time voiceover work ever since. And I sprinkled voiceover in there throughout the years, but it really wasn't the primary thing because it was the editing that paid the bills. So at least up until 2012.
Yeah. Now, did you have a home studio before 2012, or was that something you built later
I
on?
I really did not have a home studio. In about 2009 or 10, I started dabbling online. Not that I knew anything was coming down the pike, but I got on sites like Elance and Upwork, or I think it was called Odesk at the time,
Mm,
different job sites. And I bought a USB microphone. It was like I think it was a Blue Yeti, and I put it on a pizza box. And I had an iMac computer and some real rough audio editing equipment,
mm.
and I just started sending out stuff. I started looking, and $5 here, $10 there, whatever I could get for it, just little part-time supplemental
Sure.
stuff. And I was slowly building my knowledge, but I had no, as far as technical knowledge, I was sitting in a 10-foot tall uh, ceiling dining room, with no sound treatment,
Had
using
to
a
sound
USB
good.
mic. Oh yeah, it's sounding. When I listened to, I've still got some of those old demos and samples from years ago, and it just, I'm blown away that anybody would even hire me.
Yeah.
But I got a few jobs, and I began to learn the craft, and I began to learn how to take better care, better equipment, and slowly but surely, it probably wasn't until about 2013, 14 that I actually, when I moved to a new house, I set aside a room and I began to treat it with, production curtains and foam tile, and learn about, putting a pad on the desk, and learned about pop screens on the microphone, upgrading the equipment, better monitors, headphones, separating the loud stuff, putting it in another room, running long cables. So about 13 or 14, I began to build, I guess, the studio,
Yeah.
which is really nothing more than an entire bedroom, or actually two bedrooms that are dedicated, one to the recording space and one down the hall. I think I'm frozen.
No, we're good on my side.
Okay, we're both frozen, so I'll just keep going.
I can hear you. You're
Um,
good.
okay, there we go. Uh, if I froze, I apologize. But yeah, what's going on is two rooms dedicated, two bedrooms, and one has all the loud gear, the hard drives, the iMac computer, and in the recording space where I'm at right now in the padded room, I've just got the monitors, a second monitor, the speaker monitors, and I've got a Dell monitor that's actually mirrors the main iMac monitor, so I can read scripts off that. And then I've got my mouse and wireless keyboard. So minimal amount of stuff in here. No noisemakers. All the noisemakers and the fans and things are down the hall. So when I close the door in here, it is just like amazingly quiet. And my noise floor is within acceptable ranges. It's below -60. And I've hired a couple of real pros to actually, take care of the things I don't know, which
Yeah.
is, certain things about the audio, the actual audio process. And yeah, I do what I can, and I hire out the rest, which has worked well for me.
I've learned a lot just from watching YouTube videos. When I was started out, I think I was around the same time as you. It was about 2012 when I started.
Yep.
I bought a USB mic, same kind of thing. I've listened to some of that old stuff. I was doing practice scripts on the Edge Studio website, and I can still
Mhm.
go back and listen to that stuff. I'm like going, oh my gosh, I can't believe people didn't tell me just to quit. And yeah, because on that site, if you're not familiar with this, they have practice scripts that were actually used at one point, and you record it, you put it on a forum, and people listen to it and they critique you. Now the
Mhm.
only caveat with those critiques is the people who are critiquing you don't know jack more than you do. So really, I mean, it's helpful to practice, but it's not necessarily helpful, their feedback. But like Troy said, I mean, you just kind of, you learn. I learned so much from Don Barnes. That's who the guy I was trying to think of. I sent him a sample. He had a thing where he would take a sample from you, and you run it. You send him a raw sample, and then your sample that you ran your chain through and everything, and then send it to him and see what he thinks. And so we had a Zoom meeting after that,
Mhm.
and he goes, and he gave me a huge compliment.
Mhm.
One of the first things he goes, Mike, Mike, Mike. I said, uh-oh, what? He goes, I love dealing with people like you. I said, why is that? He goes, because your audio is pristine. I'm like, Oh, well, good. And we chatted about everything else. I was like, well, we just moved in this house in February. So I did take over at least part of this bedroom. And my son had some acoustic panels that were hand built by a friend of his that went to SCAD. If you know what SCAD is, the Savannah College of Art and Design, very expensive school. And they taught him how to do a lot of this stuff. He built these panels. He was moving, didn't want them anymore, gave them to him. These things got to be worth $100 a piece. I've got 5 of them in here. They're fantastic. I think they're Roxol inside of it, but it's like, they're framed up
Nice.
and it's beautiful. So yeah, I mean, there is such a learning curve with all this stuff, and it's and not only that, I think I showed a lot of self-control, but because I was a forklift driver for 25 years and I did not hang up on you. I was very offended.
I tried my best to put the little disclaimer in
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
Mike.
yeah, 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 yeah. I was right there at the end call, right there. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, you're right. I mean, but
To
I'm
all
with you.
forklift drivers, I apologize. It's a noble calling.
I
It
know.
just wasn't my calling.
I
I had
know
a
some.
special calling.
Hey,
Okay.
where does that guy live anyway? I got to go take care of him. But but it was, it really wasn't my calling either, especially working night shift all those years. But it was,
Mm,
I felt I was in this point of desperation, and I didn't have the experience you have as far as in the radio. I did work in radio for about a year back in 1988, but that was it. And that's not enough for you really to kind of get your foot in the door anywhere that will pay you any kind of money. So I was very desperate, and but it paid the bills. It got me to the point to where, because of the union contract that was negotiated long before I got there, it got me to the point where I could retire at 55. So
That's what
I
this
can't.
is a man retired at age 55.
Yeah,
I'm still working.
I'm still working too.
75?
I mean.
No, well, what you don't have, you're retired is the point.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
the man
yeah,
who chose a wise career path, got a retirement package, and was able to walk out the door with a nice monthly, yeah, okay.
yeah.
And
Okay.
me, no, no, I'm winging it. I'm winging it.
Well, I think
I'm
maybe
for as long as, yeah.
I think it's because I kind of held my breath and said, I got to do this for 25 years and then I'm going to get out. So that's what I did. It's sort of like, you go into like the public restroom at Atlanta Airport. So you hold your breath, you go in there and you get out. And that's kind of the 25 year. I'm really bad at metaphors. I need to watch more YouTube videos. Anyway, no,
Of all the areas I thought we'd go, I did not think we'd
was
talk
not
about
that.
public restrooms in the Atlanta airport.
And there's no
There's no telling
editing.
where this is. Of course
I'm,
not. This is
I'm
raw. This
stuck.
is real, folks.
This is real. This is real. Oh gosh. Yeah, as you can tell, Troy and I have been chatting back and forth for many years now. So we met
Hmm.
at a in a Fiverr group. Fiverr is one of the websites that I was nowhere near as successful as most of the rest of you, but for whatever reason, it needed to be tweaked, and they just kind of like kept cut me off and said that you haven't had a job in 3 months. We just needed send you away. So yeah, it's just the way it goes with some people. And I know some very talented folks that can't really get a whole lot of stuff going on with that. But yeah, we met in that group many years ago. It had to be 5 years ago now. 5 years.
20 early 2016, so going
Okay.
on 5 years, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we're still friends with a lot of those people we met. It's like it really is a neat little tight knit community that we have in the voiceover community. I think it's really nice, and there's some bad eggs everywhere. But I was thinking that you've done thousands probably of projects, including going back even just since 2012. What is some of your
Yeah.
most favorite or most fun projects that you've been a part of?
Well, let's see. Literally many thousands, yeah, because between the work on Fiverr and a number of the other online platforms and having the awesome opportunity to work direct with clients too.
Mm.
I would have to say one of the ones that stands out to me is very near and dear to me. It was a series of like 15 or 16 different stories for a group called Bible Pathway Adventures. Um, and they hired me actually, I think it was either on Upwork or on, it wasn't on Fiverr. It was on one of the online platforms
Freelance.
that I don't think is, no, I don't think it was Freelancer, but it was one of those. It's
Yeah.
not currently existing now. It may have been Elance is what I'm thinking of
Yeah, I
that
think
got bought
Elance
out.
turned into Freelancer, if I remember right.
Elance to Upwork or Odesk, one of
Yeah,
those, yeah.
one of them. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, they hired me back in like 2013, 14. And originally it was just going to be to read some Bible stories that this author in New Zealand and her husband had come up with, and they were, this was just right off the ground, and they wanted it to be based a lot on history and not traditional stuff, not your typical Sunday school approach, but this was going to be deeper, but it's still going to be geared toward kids, but it was going to have, you know, like original names and geographical locations, so they would tie in some more facts along with the Bible story itself.
Sure.
And so originally it was just supposed to be the voiceover. And then I did the story, and then I said, you know, I could add a little music or a little theatrical stuff in the background to kind of round the story out, because I saw some illustrations, and they were really amazing. They're really, really good. This gentleman named Tom Barnett, they hired out of Wisconsin, to do the illustrations. An amazing artist, and so he just brought the pictures to life, and just something told me I needed to do more than just the dry voice. And so I said, let me add some music. So I did that. And they were like, yes, yes, yes. So that led to like a
Great.
multiple year, multiple story process of just them just unleashing me creatively. And they just said, you know, just do the story, do the voices, do whatever you want to do. So they let me do these wild, wacky character voices, telling all these amazing Bible stories. They even had me doing Hebrew at one point, which was crazy, crazy stuff. Thankfully,
Yeah,
just one or two lines. They got a Hebrew speaker, and I was just like mimic them, but I do it in my voice. Just some wacky stuff, and just music and sound effects. And if you know what a timeline looks like in an audio program, there were the 10 to 15 tracks deep in some cases,
oh,
and
wow.
I was going to town, and this went all over the place, and they have gotten so much response. They've got a full series line of books, and their YouTube channel is amazing. And so went from doing the stories, reading with the full soundtrack, to also putting the illustrations into video format and doing videos with the audio part. So it was probably the most rewarding thing, because as a Christian, I mean, this was the outreach that they post about some of the things, you know, of where this stuff has gone, and it's just phenomenal, the outreach and the stuff they give away. And they've now since moved the headquarters to Canada, but they hire a worldwide team. They translate the books in I forget how many different languages. And so yeah, we're supposed to be doing another story coming up, I think around early December. But yeah, I get so much enrichment out of that.
I have
I've done a
actually
few
seen
audio
the
books.
one that David and Goliath one. I remember your
Yeah,
Goliath voice. I love that. I love
yeah.
that.
Goliath. Yeah. Little sound effect, little extra post work done in there for that.
Yeah, of
Because
course.
I'm not as big as Goliath. But yeah, I mean, they essentially imagine a producer turning you loose on something like that, and you're just like, you mean I can do anything? As
Yeah,
long as I read the
yeah.
story, I can do anything. So you let your imagination run wild with you. That doing that in other children's stories where I've just kind of been turned loose with, you know, whatever. Just stick to the script and just, you know, add whatever you want to. When I get projects like that, I know that it's going to be a real good day. Because and the fun thing about doing this job, as you know, Mike, is the crazy variety of stuff that we get to do.
Mm.
I mean, you know, looking at the calendar, if I'm doing an e-learning project in the morning, and I'm doing game liners for a mobile game of some sort that requires like a high energy, really intense thing like this, or like a toy commercial or something like that, you
Yeah.
know, and but you're doing the dry sort of, and now you insert slot A into widget B and make
Yeah.
sure the forklift operator knows this is the correct way to do it. So yeah,
Those are
you know, I do
hard.
a lot.
Those are
Yes,
yeah.
and you know, everything I do though is pretty cool, because I'm thinking about who's listening to this. Who's listening to this? Is there a room full of guys going, "Oh, we
Yeah.
gotta sit through the learning training again. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh."
Mhm.
And then you can suddenly come on there and you're like, there's people that really don't want to be here. Okay. So you try to make it more conversational. So while the Bible pathway is probably a highlight, and there's others, I actually did two translations of the entire Bible, which took me about 10 months to do. That was
Oh
amazing,
gosh.
because I got to do some dramatic reading and not just straight through, just basic readings. I was able to do a little more inflection and some character stuff. So yeah, I'm very blessed because there's a wide variety of stuff, a wide variety of stuff that I get to do, and it doesn't get boring because you know I a lot of times I don't know my calendar's not it's wide open. So I may wake up tomorrow and have 5 or 6 different things, or I may wake up tomorrow and have not a thing.
Yeah. Oh,
But it all
oh,
balances out because God's got me taking care of me, and He's been doing it for actually coming up on 8 full years. Just a couple of days ago, I celebrated the 8th year of having my last boss walk in and tell me that Troy, we're going to have to let you go. And that was from a very nice, well paid video editing job. And, I thought it was all about I was safe and secure. But it began a journey for me that rocked my world and radically upped my faith in a very significant way because I realized where my real source of trust and security comes from. So, yeah,
I heard a pastor talk about that one time. Is that people don't really know what they're made of until God lets them get squeezed. It's like an
mm,
orange. You don't really know what's inside until you squeeze, and God knows, but we don't know. And it's like when you get squeezed. I went through something, not professionally, but about 10 years ago, and I just remember thinking, the stuff and the thoughts that were coming out of my head and I just I realized that I was not where I needed to be. I thought I was where I needed to be because I was kind of like checking all the boxes. But I think that
mm,
those things, and I would never wish that on myself again, what I went through. But at the same time, I'm a different person on this side of it than I was then.
mm,
2010 was a terrible year for me. And when that happens, like you said, I think your faith is probably gargantuan compared to what it was prior. And I think
absolutely.
your faith has to go through. See, it's sort of like working out. You got to rip the muscle apart, let it rebuild, and then it's stronger and bigger than it was to begin with. And you know that's a fantastic story. When you were talking about having the creative liberty, have you ever done that with auditions? I know I
Yeah.
switched gears there a little bit, but
Yeah, matter of fact, I have some of the jobs I've gotten with auditions. Sometimes are those you give them what they say they want,
hmm
and then you give them a variation of that. And then what I like to do is sometimes just jump off the rails and give them something totally unexpected. And I've booked several jobs like that because it's the one that they weren't expecting, which is the last one if they have the patience to listen to them
yeah,
and the time. Then yeah, that one that's just totally just not what they were expecting, but something you saw there and something
yeah,
you thought you could have fun with that's going to get their attention. Something as simple as a character voice when they weren't asking for a character voice for a project for Lionel Trains to, just turning my head and yelling out here like a conductor would. And that just the weird little things like that. And it's just
yeah,
like, you nailed it. That's it. That's exactly the client wanted that. And then sometimes just doing something so wild and crazy that you have to back up from the mic because you're going to blow the levels out and you're just going wacky and your arms are flailing and if anybody could see
yeah.
you they'd call the cops and say I don't know what's going on in that room over there.
Something's wrong.
I'm glad it's padded though. I'm glad, yeah. But
Padded room, I think, is good
off-
for us. Yeah.
very good. But yeah, auditions, doing something a little different, I think is really important. Like I say, you give them what they want or what they think they want, and then you give them something totally you. I mean, the main thing is I never try to sound like anybody else. Um, you got to do you, but there's lots of variations of you can do if you're willing to just let your inhibitions down and just kind of go for it.
I think that's a lot of it. Let your inhibitions down. That's exactly the point, I think. And if you're like trying to break into this industry or something, it's all about being natural. It's about being who you are. Even there are very various versions of who you are. I was thinking that a couple weeks ago, I did an audition to where they came back and said, "I can't believe you did that. That was great." And it was the second take,
Yeah.
It was an older man laying in bed, and he was supposed to, as he was dying, and they wanted it kind of gruff, like he just woke up from a coma, that kind of thing. So I did that for him. So then the second take, I heard it in my head as an old Southern man. So I,
Mhm.
I came out and said, "What are you guys doing over here? I never didn't expect you in here today. Get out of here." And they came back and said, "Wow." So it's like, yeah, that's they didn't want that. They didn't ask for an accent. They didn't ask for any of that. So I think
And
it's
all it took was a few extra seconds to do, and
yep,
you booked a nice job.
yeah, yeah.
That's so cool. I love to hear stories like that.
I, I
Yep.
I love
And
I
it
love
sounds
hearing, huh?
especially when they happen to you, right?
Exactly.
I the first, demo I had produced back in, commercial demo I had produced back in, I think it was 2016 or 2017. Um, Brent Allen Hagel is the one who did it for me, and one of the
Great
things he
guy.
kept telling
Great guy.
he is fantastic, fantastic producer, and he actually, booked me for, something I'll tell you about right after that. But he did the demo production for me, and he kept telling me as he was it was like a Skype or a Zoom session, because he's out in LA, and
Mhm.
he kept telling me, "Troy, you need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to get out of your comfort zone. Just let it go, man. Just let it go. Just get out. Just let it go." He kept telling me that, and I was just like, "Oh, okay, okay." And I kept thinking, "Okay, I got to keep this is the commercial range that I'm talking about. Almond milk. We're selling almond milk, or we're selling cars, luxury cars." And I kept doing the performance thing, and he's just like, you know, this is a no comfort zone, let's just let it go. And I've never forgotten that. And a gentleman named Roger Leopardi, who produced my most recent retail demo, was telling me, just the fact that you're just being yourself, just different levels. You got to find your voice. You just got to find your voice so you can tweak it and just adjust it for whatever thing you're doing. But
Yeah.
it's still your voice. You're not having to push it. You're just talking. You're just doing your thing, and he is so good at what he does, and he's so good at being able to teach that. And of course, Bill DeWeese, you and I both know,
Sure. Sure.
an amazing teacher, an amazing YouTube channel, put out so much good content. And he actually did a commercial demo for me earlier in the year. And again, working with him was like, it's like working with your hero. For
Yeah.
me, it
Yeah.
was just like, once I got over the off factor, it was just like, "Hey, Troy, we're just sitting here relaxing." And he taught me some things just during the demo session. It was just like, just, I want this to be uncomfortable for you. So I'm like, okay. And so he's just like lean in, and I just barely make the sound. Just tell, just, this is real soft spoken, just really relax. Just, say it. And I was doing an Alfa Romeo commercial, and I've gotten more requests for that Alfa Romeo, a rich Italian opera without the dogs in the background. But it was just me just being in and just leaning in and just being really quiet and just
Uh,
low and just kind of like, whoa, look at that sports car. And I've gotten more booking requests for that Alfa Romeo style or that away suitcase thing where I'm just like, this is an away suitcase. It's great for trips or whatever. It packs great. It's easy to, different tweakings of things like that, that is just, I wouldn't have discovered that without those kind of amazing mentors and coaches, that kind of pull that out of you. And to be honest, I can kind of drift back into being lazy and formulaic sometimes. So it's important to kind of retool and re-educate and recalibrate that whole thing, because I personally can just kind of drift into being lazy and not focused on all that a lot of times, because it's like, oh, an audition request. Okay, let me pull it up in between stuff here and knock this out real quick.
hmm.
And so I'm not thinking about the copy every single time. And I think for me, for anybody doing voice acting, you have to really get into that particular place. And sometimes that just means going back to the drawing board and, taking a class or talking to a coach or watching some YouTube videos
Mhm.
from somebody that knows a whole lot more than you do. A real quick story about Brent. He sent me an email back in June, and he said, we haven't worked together since he produced my demo way back. And he wanted me to audition for a part in a French documentary that was going to be translated into English. And it turns out that documentary aired on ABC TV back in less than a month ago, just a few weeks back. And I was blown away by his generosity. To think of me after all these years, I was like, how did you think of me? He's just like, "You're good at what you do." And that's all he said. He said, "You're good at what you do." I'm like, "Okay." So there wasn't like this massive search. He just remembered that I could do that sound for that particular character. And so, yeah, out of the blue, he and it goes back to what you were saying about this community being so amazing and supportive. 99.9% of them are amazing and supportive in the voice acting world, whether it's giving, honest feedback or it's remembering you did something back then and they remember it. Um, and I think social media plays a big part in that, kind of being in the front of people's minds. If you're doing something out there, you're putting something out there, they remember you. Uh, it's kind of like sending out emails to people. Well, in the voiceover community, it's that, oh, I saw your stuff on Instagram, or I saw that spot you put up on Facebook, or whatever it was, or LinkedIn, which is probably the biggest networking tool for me right now. Which is just, yeah, just putting yourself out there and reminding people you're still in the business and still doing good stuff, and without overdoing it.
Yeah, just keeping you in the front of their minds, it's like I remember seeing him about every 2, 3 weeks or whatever,
Mhm.
I remember something that Bill DeWeese taught me. I did a training session with him, had to be 4 years ago, but I still remember some of the stuff he taught me in that 45 minutes. It was just incredible. The guy is just so full of knowledge, and he's just so generous with the whole thing, but I have the tendency to, when it's something that, I don't even know what the specific genre of what I was reading, but my voice tends to go higher. And it's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, have you ever met it?" That kind of thing. And then he goes, "Just tone it down. Just relax your vocal cords and speak like normal and forget that you're, on a microphone." And it's like, and when I did that, it caused less stumbling. It just caused it to sound so much more conversational. And it was just, it was incredible. And it's one of those things that I still apply daily today. I have to
Yeah.
stop and think and put that in there. But, yeah, he's a great guy. Brent Allen Hagel, I have never met him, but I've seen a lot of his Instagram stuff. Him and I have interacted a few times on Instagram, it just, like you said, just great people. And that 0.06% of the people sometimes post more than the others, but and that drives you a little insane. But yeah, it's really a great community. Um,
Yep.
and I'm glad that you were so successful. I'm grateful because you really do. And I meant what I said at the beginning. You have oodles of talent, and it just it's amazing how much you can see it in people when they have it and when they don't. I don't know if through the forums on social media. Sometimes people send you, you can ask them. They're having some kind of voice anomaly in their audio. Well, send a clip, and they'll send it out to 2 or 3 different people, and I'll listen to it, and I'm thinking, wow, they should be driving a forklift. You know what I mean? I was
Should
a
we tell the
trainer.
story about your green feet? I
I,
don't know.
I was when I was a trainer in Anheuser-Busch as a forklift trainer. There were some people that took to it that have never even been in the same room with a forklift, and by the end of
Mm,
the week, they were loading a trailer by themselves. It was incredible how they took to it. And then there were other people that 6 months down the road, they're still struggling to pick up a pallet. And it's
yeah.
like, and there's nothing wrong with that. We all have strengths and weaknesses in different areas. And if your brain just doesn't function in that way, because you got to have certain hand-eye coordination, and it's the same with voiceover. I mean, some people just aren't built for it. And there are times, to be honest, there are times I feel like I'm not built for it because it just seems like that I go through a dry spell and it's like, ah, yeah, 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 yeah. But I do a lot of,
Newsflash: you're not the only one that goes through dry spells, my friend.
I'm sure.
No, it happens to all of us. I mean, some of us are. I'm not one of those. Some of us, but there's some people that stay booked, and I'm not one of them. So I've told you this before. It's an ebb and flow thing.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's more flow than ebbs, which averages out real well. But yeah, I'm basically, except for a couple of agencies that call on me for a couple some auditions, I'm unrepresented. So it's basically, one person marketing operation, one person production operation, one person determining everything, doing the books minus the taxes. I farmed that out. Learned that the hard way a few years back. But
Another strength
everything
and
else,
weakness thing. So yeah.
yes, that strength and weakness thing is like identify that stuff and then figure out who you're going to sub it out to. and
Mhm.
that just wasn't my thing. But I get a kick out of the production thing. I but again, it's I've heard people with amazing voices, and you're thinking, wow, they could kill it. But it's not about. I've learned this so well, and don't get intimidated by that as much. If I hear this rich baritone voice, it's just like, whoa,
Oh, I
it's
know.
just phenomenal. That's wonderful and great. But do they know how to use it? Is that the only tune they can play? And for some, that's the only, it may be the only thing they need to do.
Right.
But I think having a variety of different things you can do, if you like doing a lot of different things, like I like character stuff. I like to do, the silly stuff. I like to do the straight corporate e-learning read stuff. But regardless of what you're doing, you need to learn how to use it. You need to learn how to break down a sentence. I mean, some of the real basic stuff you need to learn how to massage the copy. You need to learn what's important, what you can throw away, what the emotion is, who's listening to it. There's a lot of factors there more than just, having that good voice and the nice pipes and relying on that to do everything you do. Because if that's all you got, it's going to run out after a while.
Oh,
It's
I think
just
so
going to get
too.
old. Yeah. So
We
learning all the whole time is important.
and I think that, it's a genre that found me that I didn't really expect to find, which I liked, but I didn't think I had the pipes for it, was like some imaging. I do a lot of, radio show intros. I do a lot of podcast intros and outros. I'm on probably 100 different radio stations in the British Isles right now on different intros and stuff. I'm like, I don't know how that happened. Got hooked up with a guy over there. He sends me probably 5 or 6 things a week, and and sometimes, me being here in, Northern Georgia, he'll send me something from Leeds, England, and it's for this week, it was for Reno, Nevada. So it's like the internet is just fantastic. I love the internet. And
Yes.
last week it was, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So it's like, and, of course, him being in Leeds, he goes, "Make sure you don't call it," what was it? Oh, no, it was New Orleans. It wasn't Baton Rouge. He goes, "Make sure you don't call it New Orleans." I say, "I understand. I got it."
Gotcha.
It's just, but it's fantastic. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, the internet has definitely made the production world smaller for me.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
amazing. The biggest thing, excuse me, the biggest thing is just adjusting to the time zones. And for me, I found just working up those boundaries to where you're like, okay, when you'd like to work, but you got to realize there's people in Europe that might want your services. There's people
Mhm.
in the Middle East. There's people in Eastern Asia. There's Australia, New Zealand, and all over the world, including if you're going back in time to Pacific California time, just a few hours behind from where we're at. And so it's juggling all those multiple time zones if you're going to be working in this business, and that is you do need boundaries, but you also need one of these here to keep,
Absolutely.
to be in communication. And I find that to be the case too. Even when I go on vacation, I'm not really ever off, but I do know where my boundaries are. And I do know that if I get a text at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm not going to reply to it.
Heck
I
no.
mean, I may hear the ding, distantly, and I may kind of glance over at it. But if I see it's an app that is related to work, I'm not going to respond to that
Right.
because I don't want to build that expectation that, oh yeah, I'll get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and do a voiceover. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. No.
So
I'm not that
knowing your
hungry yet.
boundaries, no, not yet.
Yeah.
I think I have been, but I'm not right now. I'm not saying I would never do it, but
Yeah.
I'm saying, you need to have those boundaries to where, okay, this is work and this is not work.
Right.
And, I'll be at the grocery store and it'll be 8 o'clock at night and I'll open up the phone and I'll be conversing in the checkout line with somebody. Yeah, we can do that. Let me send you an offer. Let me send you a quick audition when I get home, something like that. No big
Right.
deal. But normally it's just like find those boundaries, know what works for you, and don't burn yourself out because you could, there's work to be done out there that could keep you busy and awake at all wee hours of the morning. And that's just not a healthy thing. You got to find a good balance, which I'm still kind of doing, but it's good to hear myself say it.
But it's so true. And I think being retired and being to where this is, I'm not really counting on this to pay my mortgage and everything. It kind of makes me easier for me to kind of put those boundaries in. When I get that order from Great Britain, I think it probably dings my phone about 4 in the morning. And,
Mhm.
I get up and sometimes I'll go exercise or I'll go do something, whatever. And, you have to let your voice kind of wake up anyway, because, you wake up, you have that little bit of James Earl Jones deal going. And it's like, by about 9 o'clock, I sit down and I'll do the job, and that's about when he expects my work from me. So yeah, and I'll text him and tell him that we're going out of town for the weekend or we're going out of town for the week, and he's got other people on his roster, and it's not a big deal. So yeah, creating those boundaries for yourself is very important, and like I said, it's easier as you get older, I guess, to tell people no. I mean, when I was
I
younger, I
think
was a yes
because
person.
well, yeah, I hate to let people down. If
Yeah, me
somebody's
too.
expecting somebody, I really, really hate that. And, I'm not retired, so I have to work a lot of,
Yeah.
to because gotta keep stuff in that belly. Gee, boy, that
Well,
was loud.
I
That's my
wasn't trying to
stomach, by the way.
I wasn't
That's
trying to
my
rub
stomach.
rub your nose in that. I was just saying. Um,
No,
if you could go
I
back,
carry a travel rig with me. I carry a travel rig with me too sometimes if I'm on vacation just
oh,
to make sure I can do that,
yeah,
to deliver. I build a pillow fort and I do it and send it out and get back to what's important, which is the family time.
I
If I
actually
could
did
go
that.
back.
Well, I was going to say, I actually had to do that. I think it was 3 weeks ago. My wife and I were up in Indiana, right on the border of Kentucky and Indiana, and I brought my travel rig with me because I finally built it and I finally set it up and everything. I brought it with me, and I thought, I told him I wasn't going to be in town. He probably won't email me. Of course, Saturday morning, he emails me, and my wife was at a seminar, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this now. So, the acoustics in hotel rooms are absolutely horrendous, and I
Mhm.
probably should have gone to the car. It would have been a lot easier, but I folded my old 56-year-old body up under a desk and made a pillow fort under that desk. And when you're folded up, you can't breathe. And so I'm like, I had to take probably 10 takes to take a sentence because I'm like going, I got to figure out where I can take a breath in here. It was awful. But anyway,
You
um,
do what you gotta do, man.
do what you got to do. If you could go back 10, 15, 20 years and talk to the Troy W Hudson of his younger age, what would you tell him? What would you pull him aside and say, dude, avoid this. Dude, do this. Buy Home Depot stock, something.
First of all, take better care of yourself. If this was, say, 10 years ago, take better care of yourself. Definitely start putting money aside in savings, get yourself out of debt, prepare for the future because you don't know how long you're going to be on the planet. Treat the people in your life better than what you have. Treasure those relationships because, the work stuff is one thing, but it's the personal relationships that are going to, that's what you're going to look back on when you get, way beyond these years.
Mm,
I'm 56, just like you.
yeah.
So I think the personal relationships would be the thing. If we're talking just professional, though, um, I think just networking and connecting with people earlier than what I did. I stayed kind of isolated when I got laid off. I figured I'm good about kind of teaching myself how to do stuff, but I can learn a whole lot more if I just open myself up to other outside instruction at the same time. So I isolated myself for several years, and I think I could be much further along with more connections and more inroads to other parts of the business if I had opened myself up to those networking things earlier on. But a lot of it is I, part of it I wouldn't trade because it's for me the faith journey was all tied into that and the struggles and trying to figure it out and just growing as a person um, by going through the trials. I wouldn't want to shortcut that. So part of it is like go back and fix some of the personal stuff, but for the most part, I think I've done the stuff fairly right as far as the professional things, with the exception of reaching out. So yeah,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
was that deep enough for you?
No, I think that was great.
That's honest.
That's exactly the answer I expected pretty much. It's we can all improve on how things have gone, but I think we gotta start every day brand new, and I know you do that. So it's So, what does the future hold now that we've kind of brought us up to speed on Troy W Hudson to 2020? Now what? You gonna write a
Well,
book?
no.
No.
I actually, a number of years ago when I started posting is like, this is my faith journey from like 2012 on, and I posted a few videos. Somebody said, you should write a book. I'm like, I no. I'll do videos instead. I've started doing something. It's partly it's therapeutic for me, just getting over a a major hurdle, which was doing live videos. I started back in June doing every Friday. I'll go online and I'll yak for like a half hour. Sometimes I'll play some of the stuff I've done. Sometimes I'll just talk about what the day's like. Sometimes I'll bring in the dogs. And it was initially just a way to kind of get over a fear that I had of doing live video, pushing the live button and going online to the social media channels, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. And I was petrified the first few times. Just the thought of it scared me to death. And then I thought, I've got to do it. I've got to overcome this thing. And now I'm in the process of trying to figure out what am I doing with it? Because it's like formatless. And so I'm trying to figure that out. As far I know I want to continue to do that, and and there's no money involved in it at this point. It's just kind of a free form creative thing for me to do. I think I'll continue to do what I'm doing. I like doing e-learning for clients directly. I've got a pool of folks that I do that for. I'd like to build on that. Continue to let the business grow. I know I want to get into more short form commercial stuff, more retail oriented, car, furniture, medical sort of short commercial forms, because those are quick to crank out, but you got to be able to be quick to crank them out. And I think connecting with some agencies, doing things like that. I think I think I've kind of let audiobooks go because of the time consumption it takes.
Oh
I've
yeah.
done like 60 of them, and I'm very selective now, and my rates are at a level where you really got to want me to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really have to have the time because I just don't have the time on my calendar anymore, nor the patience, to be honest. I think continuing to learn as I go. I'm planning a major move next year. I haven't picked the exact place, but because I can do what I do from anywhere, as long as I got an internet connection and a quiet space, I'm plotting and contemplating a move somewhere out west where there are mountains. I just don't know exactly where yet.
Really? Like
Yeah,
Western
doing the
more
research.
than Georgia, right? I mean, you're not
Yeah,
you're,
beyond,
you're
yeah.
talking now
West of
you
the
have
Mississippi. I'm talking Utah, Idaho. It's a hybrid of Idaho and Utah. No, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, somewhere in that basic area, that large swath of land.
am I
And
remembering right? Weren't you born in Utah? Is that correct?
I was
I
born in
think
Tennessee, but I actually lived in Utah
that's what it was.
from like 79 to 82 or 83. So I spent my high school years there
Okay.
and fell in love with the place. But
It's
yeah, as
beautiful.
far as living, it is fantastic. So it's one of those places next year, probably in the late summer, I'll make that move. But in the meantime, the short 2021, just continuing to grow, get the income level up so I can save for a house. I've got, goals in mind from where I want to be. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm not burning out from what I'm doing. I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
You
I get
seem
up
to love it.
excited. I get up. I'm blessed. I mean, when
Yeah.
I look at just the fact that I don't have to get on an interstate and drive during
Oh
rush
yeah.
hour, or I can take a day off, or I can, I'm kind of tired. I think I'll go take a nap in the middle of the day. And, I know I've got work to do, and I'm refreshed, and I get up and I do my work, and nobody ever knows it. And, except for now.
Well, it's because the
But
cat is out of the bag.
thanks for editing it. And then he said he never sleeps on the job. No, I'm so blessed. It's ridiculous when I think about what I get to do
Yeah.
in this padded room in my home, and I don't have to go out and commute, like I say, in rush hour. I'm going to continue doing this as long as I stay healthy, which is another thing, is just concentrating on being healthier and taking care of, because when I'm physically healthier, I found my voice and my breathing and everything is just a natural extension. It's
Sure.
just like I can hear the difference, as opposed to, not taking care of yourself and eating junk food and then getting in front of the mic and going, and all
Yeah,
these weird mouth noises, and just the breath is hard to come. So taking care of myself and just continuing on and building on the business is what I'm going to do next, Mike. Not write the book.
Okay. Now you were talking about health-wise, and we'll wrap it up here in a minute, but you just finished a thing called a 56-56 challenge. You want to tell us what that is?
Bless your heart, Mike, for remembering that.
I, I
This was
love
not
you.
staged or
I
scripted.
love I love you like a brother, boy.
You're my brother from another mother, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually, Mike, I did. I decided to do. I had it only on Instagram. As far as I did 56 some odd live video, or almost 56 live videos every day. I started on August 1st, but I got super sick with the flu or something kind of like COVID. I took the test; it said negative, so that
Mm.
was wonderful. But I was still sick as a dog. So I restarted on August 8th or 9th and went 56 days straight of going out in the woods or wherever I could find a place to walk, and walk at least 5.6 miles, went as high as 7.5 a couple of times, hiking, walking, doing whatever every single day, regardless, straight for 56 days, which was 56, 56, which was the point,
Right.
and I'm 56. So yeah, that was a real physical challenge because there were rainy days and there were days where you wake up and you're like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And I realized the accountability factor of putting it on social media on Instagram, I kind of have to do this
Yeah.
because I put it out there and it's really, except for being sick when I just physically couldn't get up, and I had to start over, that was a valid excuse. But I traveled to Denver like last week and I had to figure that out. It's like, oh, I have to get up at 5 in the morning to go down to the hotel treadmill to put in at least 3.5 miles because I know I'll probably do a couple visiting the grandkids, which is why we were there. So
Mm.
I even stayed with it while I was there, out of state. It's like, how do I do this in an airport? You walk around the airport, and so I did it the whole time, the whole 56 days. And on the last day, I decided to walk in the evening, nice sunset shot. The dogs were there with me. And I really felt proud of myself. As I did it, I did it. And I was already thinking about the next one I was going to do, which the next one is going to be, can I premiere it here?
Sure, why not? Yeah.
Okay. The 57-57 challenge. And the goal is to start on October 17th and work up to my birthday, which just happens to be 57 days from October 17th is December 13th when I turn 57. Details to come on my social media
Nice.
pages, but basically it's going to be a rapid, hardcore exercise weight loss program that I'm going to start. And so, yeah, we'll see how much weight I can lose. I have a goal in mind, but in the meantime, I'm binging on snack food and
Oh,
drinking
you
things
are
I
not.
shouldn't. I'm training for you got to do that because it's like I have to abstain at a certain point.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's what's next.
For me, it's like, it's the eating in the evenings, and I've got a thing to where, I have a nighttime routine is, I'll go in, I'll floss, brush, and then Listerine, and then, of course, that's all you're squeaky clean at that point, and then you go to bed. But if I can do that around 6 o'clock after I eat, I won't wanna have anything else. Won't wanna have a piece of cheese or a Twinkie or anything because the Listerine, nothing tastes good after Listerine. So I mean, I'm thinking that that might be something to try because I need to get shed about 10-15 pounds myself too. Yeah, I
I
feel.
need to drop about 40.
Oh, stop,
That's
stop.
my goal.
Did,
That's
have-
why I
did
only do videos from the chest up.
did you lose any
Down
from the
below, it's like
56, 56?
I thought I would, but I
Yeah,
wasn't eating right. I wasn't doing the diet thing. I mean,
yeah,
I could hoof it. I got my time down really well per mile, but yeah, after when I wasn't doing that, I was just like I wasn't really thinking about it,
yeah,
which kind of forced me into the 57 because it's like if I had just cut out half the junk I ate, I could have easily lost 10 or 15 pounds in that, almost 2 month period. And so it's like, well, it's time to get serious. And that's what's coming up next. So
yeah.
I got about 2 weeks until that starts. So in the meantime,
Well, we'll be here cheering you on. How do people get a hold of you on social media? Do you have your own
I don't have my own
extension
social
or?
media channel, but I TroyWHudson.com is the website.
Yeah.
Uh, Troy W Hudson _VO, I think, on Instagram. If you look up Troy W Hudson
Yeah, definitely.
on Google, it's pretty safe to say that
There's not
don't
too
look up
many.
Troy Hudson. Yeah, don't look up Troy Hudson because a basketball player and a rapper comes up, and I'm not either one of those
You're
things.
not. You know, maybe
No,
that could be maybe the rap challenge next year.
the rap
See?
challenge.
See? Comfort zone, my brother. Comfort zone. Get out of that comfort zone. I'm not doing
You're
it,
not
but you
talking
do
gift
it.
wrapping, are you? Because I can gift wrap.
I
My
can't
idea of
do
gift
that
wrapping
either.
is drop it in a box, actually, with some tissue paper. That's my gift wrapping. Or how's that Amazon gift card treating you?
Well, Troy, this has been a blast, and you know, if you want have a project you think Troy's voice is and personality would be perfect for, like you said, it's troywhudson.com, and email him from there. And you know, he's a great guy to work with, and like I said, I've known him for a long time, and he is solid as a rock character wise. You will not be sorry. So, thank you for coming on with me. I appreciate that. Next week, you were mentioning Australia. Next week, I believe it's next week. I'll have someone from Australia on here, from Brisbane, Australia.
Good
Details
day.
to come. I gotta get up at well, no, actually, it's going to be at probably about 10 or 11 at night because that'll be 10 or 11 on there. It's exactly on the opposite side of the planet, so it'd be fun.
Exactly.
It'd be fun. Be fun. Yeah, I think the 12. Yeah, I had to take my shoes off to count that high, but yeah, yeah, we're good. We're good. So thanks for coming on, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. I
We'll
had
do it
fun.
again. Yeah. Have a good day.
You too.